So, a movie from 10 years ago now, well, nearly 11, actually was filmed 12 years ago. Um, yeah, you know, it's supposed to be a comedy. When dark comedies are concerned, it's always a bit difficult, isn't it? Dark comedies can be hit and miss when it comes to whether they're truly funny or not. Of course, comedy itself is subjective, so But yeah, this Four Lions one is a bit um bumpy, shall we say? Like I knew the premise. I obviously didn't read anything about the whole plot or anything. I never do so, but I didn't actually think, based on the premise, based on the synopsis, that it goes so far as to actually, you know, actually commit to it to the very end, sort of, considering the synopsis described them as incompetent, etc. So one would think that they fail, but fail in the sense that completely fail, and this is the problem, um I don't know how it can be considered a comedy. I mean, it did have comedic parts, so sort of like well, many other comedic movies, I suppose. There are comedic bits usually, but then sometimes they don't have, yeah, like Shaun of the Dead that I watched recently. I don't think many people would consider someone's guts being eaten by the zombies as comedic. No, what was comedic is everything else, really. But of course, that's a problem. Then it's a movie about zombies, so if the zombies themselves aren't funny, then yeah, it's kind of a problem. And that was my problem with that as well. The problem with this is slightly different, but it's still a bit strange. And because it did have funny moments, but not many of the biggest sort of one would describe sort of more obvious scenes. I'm assuming scenes that they wanted to impress with sort of like when he tripped over a sheep and such. It doesn't seem to me that that is very comedic. Um, yeah, okay, kind of like the people themselves looking at him, they just stared. The fact that it even happened, but it's not really comedic, is it? Tripping over a sheep and blowing yourself up and the sheep along with it, poor sheep, it's not very comedic at all. It's not comedic at all, in my opinion, whether it's very or not is, I suppose, different matter. But well, this is the problem with comedy, I suppose. It's different, difficult. I mean, to really be comedic in some instances, and this instance, yeah, it's just difficult to have this sort of dark comedy. It seems like many people might have found it funny. He seems to have won some sort of debut award, despite not really doing much else after the movie. He only just released another one recently, apparently, with a very similar topic for some reason. Um, I don't know, it's very strange. I mean, in a way, it's sort of the opposite of a rom-com. I mean, rom-coms tend to be so stale, they tend to have the same thing always. This is not the same thing. It's certainly nothing that I've watched in a comedy before, so that's good. But it's the same thing with Shaun of the Dead. I mean, it is unique, but depends on what then. What exactly uh, makes it unique, and how it happens to trans transmit that attempt at comedy. Now, when it comes to the funny scenes that I actually thought were funny, which obviously didn't usually didn't involve the actual and they actually anyway, yeah, there were a few, but only a few, mainly involving the conversations themselves. I mean, this is supposed to be a slapstick comedy. When it comes to slapstick, though, I don't think it really worked. I mean, good slapstick is, um, like the Dictator. They also commented on that is somehow done well in such a historical context. But this, tripping over a sheep isn't good slapstick in my opinion. I don't know, maybe some people find it funny. It's very low, low. I don't know. Just it's not. But what I did find funny was the when he was trying to convince him that the heart is his head. Yeah, now that was funny, but not very internally consistent. So 20 minutes prior, or even less than that, the movie was trying to make the audience believe that the same person who was trying to convince someone else to commit such an act by telling him a heart as his head. I mean, sure, this is a some farcical attempt at comedy, so it's not. I mean, that shouldn't need to be entirely realistic or such, but um, it's not believable because 10 minutes per hour, 20, not really very long before. Yeah, he was trying to tell everyone to just not do anything at all. And suddenly he's trying to convince him. And this is the problem as well, but at the very end as well, when he suddenly goes into a boots. Like seriously, he had just said before in the movie that he would never do that, and suddenly he does that. For what reason? That I'm assuming no one considers that to be funny per se. It would be absurd for anyone to consider, but it doesn't even make sense contextually. Considering the rest of the movie, it just doesn't quite make sense at all. So these are the problems. I mean, I don't consider this to be a great movie because it's it's inconsistent, and the comedy doesn't really work very well. Sometimes, often, there were a few instances when it was funny, and I got to admit the ending bit as well with the snipers. I don't think I've ever found snipers to be funny in any other movie before, but the snipers were somehow. I mean, okay, saying that, there were a few others, a couple of others, uh, of all places. Yeah, it's where they found someone else who wanted to join them, and they just ended with welcome, and that about the Boston marathon instead. Not sure why they also did this at the marathon. In this marathon, nothing happened, but yeah. So I don't think it works very well as a comedy anyway. This is the problem. And then again, I'm not sure. I mean, it doesn't quite work very well with regards to social. If it attempted to be a social commentary, I don't think it does quite attempt that. But even if it tried to do, it wouldn't work so very well. I mean, obviously every comedy can still try to be some sort of social commentary, even if it's not, serious social commentary. But this doesn't work very well like that either. And I think the problem might be the fact that one of the writers apparently, but only one. So apparently there were three writers, and I have no idea. I mean, if literally they wrote one third each or something. But one of the writers happened to go to apparently um, the most productive school in the country. Apparently, so I don't know. It just seems to me like either he has a good imagination, and but saying this, it doesn't seem like in terms of social commentary, it's done very well. I don't know if it's because of that, but you know, uh, how you can go from such a school, you know, selective school to writing about social issues. I'm not entirely sure, and whether it's social or comical, but still, um, so just lack of experience, really. I mean, yeah, it's kind of like if Ken Loach happened to be an aristocrat or something, it would be so absurd. I don't think this writer is, but the school we went to seemed pretty exclusive. So I don't know, it just doesn't seem to be. On the other hand, Chris Morris, who also directed, seemed to he went to some sort of church school, so I don't know if it is prestigious or not. Just seems to be just a church school, but yeah, and um, overall, well, this does seem somewhat prestigious. It had a list of the many people who went there, including two presidents, etc., etc. So might not be a selective specifically, but it seems still to be prestigious. So I don't know how this matters at all. I mean, Chris Morris also did other series before and such. So it's not like he doesn't do comedy or this sort of or didn't also do somewhat of a social commentary in the past. But with this, though, it doesn't seem to work very well when it comes to social commentary specifically. I mean, it clearly is mostly intended to be more comic, but in terms of that as well, then on the other hand, doesn't quite seem to work because it's just so dark, and they seem to think that they needed to take it to its logical conclusion. I don't know. It's a bit too extreme to be comic, that sort of thing. So as I say, it had a few bits where they were comic, primarily so, just a couple, that bit where he's trying to convince us he's had a idea, and the talk with the Wookiee. That was pretty funny. I got to admit, is a Wookiee a bear? A bear? No, it's not a bear. Star Wars was never mentioned at any point, but yeah, that was funny. But other than that, not much else was funny. It's just you know, um, this is the problem. I mean, it had sort of these very low tides of attempts at comedy, but it doesn't quite rise up to anything big apart from this talk of Wookiees and such. Other than that, when they had that microwave thing, the crow thing more than anything, that's not funny. I mean, the crow is on the poster as well. What is funny about it? That's just horrid. Um, I mean, yeah, they even put that thing in the credits as well. I mean, assuming it's not real, but must have really thought it was funny. And, it just doesn't seem to be funny to me, at least. And as I say, comedy is subjective, so by all means, everyone has their own interpretation. Critics as well seem to be about split, but in terms of comedy, especially when it concerns difficult subjects, I think, as I said, I think, as I the dictator did that better, and that that also concerned a difficult subject, but this didn't do so well that much, I think, in my opinion. It still had low currents there, you know.